Hello students, I welcome all the class 10th students. This is me, Mr. T. Joseph Reddy, the faculty of English. Here today we are going to discuss about Unit 6, biodiversity. And under biodiversity we are going to discuss about different aspects. And here before we know and before we discuss about the different aspects in this unit, first we should know what is biodiversity, what are the contents of this biodiversity, and then what exactly is happening to biodiversity and how we have to conserve the biodiversity. So all are the different aspects that we are going to deal in this unit. And while late, now let us first learn about biodiversity. Now if you look at this particular concept called biodiversity, biodiversity is all the different kinds of life you will find in one area, the variety of animals, plants, fungi and even microorganisms like bacteria that make up our natural world. If you take one particular area, one particular place, the different kinds of life that you find in that particular area is under biodiversity. And next, each of these species work together in ecosystems like an intricate web to maintain balance and support life. Here it is like cobweb together, and all the strands in the cobweb have to be proper. Even if you just disturb one strand in the cobweb, it definitely becomes problematic for us to learn about that particular aspect. So even if you disturb one strand, the remaining all get broken. So thus here all the species should come together and then work as a cobweb in order to build a proper biodiversity. Because food chain is there, herbivores, carnivores and all, so many cycles you have where one depends on the other. Even if one is disturbed and the other one becomes problematic. So carnivorous animals, if you kill, the herbivorous animals, they increase, and the herbivorous animals, if they increase, they start eating away all the grass and everything. Thus it is again ecological balance, ecological system being disturbed here. But as humans put increasing pressure on the planet, using and consuming more resources than ever before, we risk upsetting the balance of ecosystems and losing biodiversity. So long as nothing was disturbed, everything was peaceful. If you talk about the forefathers, they used to be very healthy, they used to be very happy, they used to live peacefully for 80-90 years, they used to work very strong. But what has happened to our next generations and the following generations? Somehow we disturbed this particular ecological balance. How and why? We put an increasing pressure on the planet, using and consuming more resources than ever before. We started overusing it than before. Maybe we may call it as scientific advancement or development or whatever it may be, but we started using more resources than before, and thus in the process of using all these resources, we slowly started causing disturbance to our own life by disturbing this biodiversity. And we also started upsetting the balance of ecosystems. We, under the development, started clearing of the forests. As we started clearing of the forests, the carnivorous animals slowly disappeared. As the carnivorous animals getting disturbed, and then when the carnivorous animals got less and less. The herbivorous animals increased, and then when the herbivorous animals also, when they were disturbed, they started falling on the villages. So now if you just see in the villages, in so many villages, you see monkeys and so many other animals disturbing the fields and everything and destroying it. So even the elephants and so many other animals you listen about. So since we disturbed the ecosystems, we are losing the biodiversity. The theme is more relevant than ever in the wake of sweeping changes taking place in different spheres across the world. And then here, this particular unit suggested by the government, Telangana government, talks about or wanted to throw focus upon the different changes that are taking place, which are affecting the human beings, in order to bring an awareness in the students, because when the students are aware of all these things, they start taking care of it. So thus, this particular unit wanted to throw focus upon saving our own planet, saving our own environment and our own biodiversity. And the next, the learners will certainly become aware of their role in preserving the pristine nature of the environment as they read and reflect on the passages in this unit. That awareness is very, very important in the people. And then awareness about what is our role, what should we do. And then because the nature was very clean, very pristine, and then now in order to restore that pristine nature, what should we do? Should we all muse over, or should we all feel sad for whatever we lost? Or should we try to restore it, maybe by planting more trees, or maybe by reducing the usage of the natural resources? So what exactly should we do? This unit is exactly going to throw focus upon. Now, I welcome you all now into the unit. Up to now we had introduction, and now we enter into the unit. Unit 6, Reading A, Environment. Unit 6, Reading A, Environment. Now here, this particular lesson, Reading A, it is an interview by Japan's NHK Radio with Wangari Maathai. Wangari Maathai is a well-known environmentalist and a Nobel Prize winner from Africa. Now here, this particular person, Wangari Maathai, started the Green Belt movement and also fought for equal rights for women in Africa. We already know Africa known to be as a dark continent, where the awareness is very, very less, and to convince those people is not an easy task. So even in that particular aspect, Wangari Maathai worked out for a longer time, worked with the woman and still convinced them, and then made them to work and fight for their rights. So now here, if you look at from the very beginning, Wangari Maathai understood that she has to rehabilitate the environment, as the rural people are asking for clean drinking water, for food, for energy, for building material, for fodder for the animals. Now here, Wangari Maathai understood one particular aspect, that we have to rehabilitate the environment, restore the environment. Whatever is lost, we have to rehabilitate the environment. Then only whatever the benefits that we used to get, whatever our forefathers used to get the benefits from the nature, we too will get them. So thus, in that way, Wangari Maathai, right from the beginning, she understood this concept called rehabilitation of the environment. And as the rural people, they wanted all these things: clean drinking water, food, energy, building material, fodder, everything. What happened to this particular needs of the people? Before, the people, those who were living in the African forests, they used to live very peacefully without any problem. Once the Europeans conquered, occupied the African continent and African countries, they just started clearing of the forests, and then they started plantations. Plantations are eucalyptus trees and other trees they used to plant, whichever used to give them more profit. Now here, the local biological flora and fauna was being destroyed. For example, I have one piece of land, a common piece of land, where people all used to use it. Now I bought it and I kept a compound wall and then made it my property. Then I don't allow anyone to encroach into my property. So this is what happily actually done in this particular aspect. And here the Europeans conquered the forests of the Africans. They cleared off the forests and then started plantations in that particular forest. So at that time they were waiting for the drinking water, food, energy, building material, fodder, all those things which they used to get freely before, and now they were waiting for it. Which they used to get freely, now they were working under someone and getting it. So that is what Wangari Maathai understood, that these people really require this. These people, they have this need. She thought peace is connected to a good environment because there won't be any conflict if natural resources are abundant. Now, she thought that peace is connected to a good environment. Why peace is connected to good environment means, when all the natural resources are there available, when everything, for example, if I have sufficiency, I don't fight. If 5 people are there, if only one mango is there, if you have to share, and then people, they start about less and more. So if each one has a mango, then they don't fight. So in the same way here, if the natural resources are equally distributed, if all have the access to this particular natural resources, then what happens is the peace is achieved. And then because there won't be any conflict if natural resources are abundant, if natural resources are equivalently distributed. And next, the equal distribution of natural resources is done, then everything is great, everything is going to be fine. Most of the natural resources are vested in the hands of a few individuals. More natural resources are vested in the hands of the few individuals, and less is available to more people. So maybe these political leaders and the business magnates, so all those people, they just are taking all this into their hands. So this is what Wangari Maathai realized, and then that is what she says, if this particular thing changes, if it is distributed equally, if the natural resources are distributed equally as per the requirement, if there is more requirement, then more natural resources can be done. If less is there required, it should be in a proper way distributed. So that is what she believes in, the equal distribution of the natural resources. She insists that conflicts over natural resources are even at global level. This is what colonization took place by the Europeans. Europeans went to so many other countries conquering in order to get the natural resources for their development. Especially Britishers, they ruled more than 200 years India. That is the reason why they wanted the natural resources. The Europeans even went to Africa only in search of the natural resources. So conflicts take place. Conflicts are over the natural resources at the global level. So this is what we can tell it as an example. When she was a child, which was 50 years or even more before, the environment was very pristine, very beautiful and very green. But as she grew, the people destroyed all the local biological diversity. Now here, when Wangari Maathai was a child, She saw everything pristine, very clear, very good, no pollution, everything was very, very good. And then 50 years or even before, it was everything in that way. And as she started growing, the problem in the environment also started growing. And people started destroying all the local biological diversity. And thus, all the flora and fauna disappeared. Flora and fauna, all flora is about all the plants, trees and everything. Fauna is all the animals. Now, there's a book called the Red Book. In that, the extinct and endangered species of the animals are increasing and the existing number of animals number is going down. So this is what is the danger when this destroying of the environment takes place. One thing she noted is that not only did the rain pattern change, became less, but also the rivers started drying up. On one side we have the rain pattern changing. Before, the rains always used to come maybe by May ending or June starting. Nowadays, slowly the rain patterns started changing. Maybe sometimes you get in the middle of the June, and then sometimes even in the middle of the July also sometimes, and sometimes you don't properly get the rains at all. But maybe 20, 30 years before, we used to get rains on time and all the seasons used to be on time. Now seasons are not seasonal. So in that way, this is all because of the environmental changes. And then the rain pattern changed, the rain pattern became less, and not only that, the rivers started drying up. Since there is no water, the rivers started drying up. And so she started campaign to restore the vegetation and to restore the land and to rehabilitate the forests. Now, she slowly started campaign to restore the vegetation and to restore the land and to rehabilitate the forests. So she wanted to rehabilitate the forests. When she approached or when she started working with a woman, she taught them how to plant trees. When she first approached the woman, they just asked, how should we rehabilitate the forest, or how should we plant the trees? And Wangari Maathai told them, you see, when you go to plantations and so on, how you plant seeds, how you take care of them, the same things. So in that way, one thing is planting the seeds or plants, and the second side, what they were supposed to do was to take care of them. If they wanted something, if they want to get their own food, if they want to get their own building material, if they want to get their own things, then they have to take care of the plants or the trees, whatever they have planted. So that is what she made them to understand as per the lesson. Now, in the beginning it was difficult, but they soon gained confidence and they became very competent foresters. In the beginning it was not so easy. Whenever or whatever you first start, it is not that easy to exactly go ahead. But you know, once you just get onto that particular track, then everything goes on smoothly. So here also, when she started, first thing was that they didn't really understand what she spoke, because all they were illiterate. Plantation of the trees, ecological balance, all those things was beyond their thinking. So they didn't understand. But necessity is the mother of invention. Once they got the need or necessity for food, for clean drinking water, for food for animals, so all those things, once they got the need, once she started that saying that you have this need, if you work in this way, you are going to get in this way. So if you work and if you start planting, you would get food, you would get clean drinking water, you will get plenty of rains. So when all these things, when she started saying to them, then slowly they started understanding it. And very soon they became very competent foresters. They started planting the trees, and then they started developing the forest. Since they really worked of whatever she guided them and started developing the forests, Wangari Maathai called all these people as foresters without diplomas. Forest department people, first they were asked to train these people. But all the foresters, though they came and though they told them, it was all beyond their understanding, beyond their capacity of understanding. So in that way, they didn't really understand it. But the moment when Wangari Maathai started guiding them to do the things, they slowly understood, just because she said to them. They did not study any books. They did not really go process by process, step by step. Nothing of that sort they did. So whatever they were doing, their regular work, they simply continued and then proceeded further. So even in that way, they could really protect the forest. So that's why, though they did not have diplomas, though they did not have degree, a specification, a specific study on the environment and all the environmental studies, but they still could take care about the forest. That's why she called them foresters without diplomas. So here, that is what we have to understand. And the next one is, Wangari Maathai thinks that the woman responded so well to her message because it is need for them. As I already told you, necessity is the mother of invention. You invent new plans, new techniques when you are in need. So here also, when Wangari Maathai told them to plant trees, to take care of the forests, they listened to her so well because they had the necessity of food and clean drinking water and all other basic needs. She has seen three biggest transformations, changes. What are those three biggest transformations? Now let us look at. The first and the biggest transformation was that ability of an ordinary illiterate woman to get to understand and be able to plant trees. The biggest transformation here, according to Wangari Maathai, was that the illiterate woman, or the ability of an ordinary woman to understand and be able to plant trees. They did not really know what is planting trees, how to plant trees, what to be done to plant trees, nothing of that sort. But they still understood it. They followed whatever Wangari Maathai said to them, and they planted, and the plan, whatever she said to them, they followed it, and they were successful. So in that way, this says one of the biggest transformations. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. So in the same way, the illiterate woman understood the necessity for a transformation or change. So thus this is the biggest transformation. That is the first one. And the other two transformations, the second one and the third one, are here. If you see, transformation of the landscape, the change in the landscape. So when the greenery increased, the rain patterns were regular, normal, and thus the rivers also started being ever flowing rivers. They were not drying up. So there were so many other continuations because of this. And the next third one is that the willingness of people to fight for their rights. Now when they came to know, when they became self-sufficient, then they came to know that they have some rights and they have to fight for it. So the moment they came to know that they have some rights and they have to fight for it, and then they started fighting for their rights. As far as they did not have their basic needs, they were fighting for their basic needs, and they were trying to satisfy their basic needs. Once they were satisfied with their basic needs, then they came to understand, then they came to know that we have to fight for our rights. And they also started fighting for their rights. So in that way, Wangari Maathai also influenced the rest of Africa by her efforts. Now here, a change is a gradual process. And then once you change one particular area, one particular aspect, the remaining aspects slowly they start changing. That is what Wangari Maathai did it. The moment she started a movement, Green Belt movement, she educated some of the illiterate women by looking at this particular illiterate woman, the other people, by looking at the transformation of this illiterate woman, the other parts of the Africa already slowly started working out on that. And they are in the plan of restoring this particular biological flora and fauna in their localities. Now here, this is all that was done by Wangari Maathai. She finally concluded, Wangari Maathai finally concluded in the last part of the interview that the greatest activity is to plant a tree, which is a wonderful symbol for the environment. Each person has to plant a tree and develop the greenery in one's area. And even if you look at our own Telangana Haritaharam program is going on in order to increase the greenery in our state. And there are so many other states which have taken. And here, Sundarlal Bahuguna we can take as an example. He also started a Chipko movement in Himalayas and all other areas in order to increase the greenery and in order to restore the biological diversity or in order to make the environment better. So there are so many other environmental activists who really are working in order to restore the environment, in order to make the biological diversity develop. So let us also realize and recognize the necessity in order to develop the environment. So let us also take it as a responsibility, each one of us, and we also let us start planting a tree, at least one or two plants or one or two trees, and start taking care of them. Not only simply planting it, we have to also take care of it and we have to develop it. That's what these African women did, and they brought the benefits and got the benefits. So now this is the end of the lesson. Now let us look at the glossary. Now let us continue with the glossary. The first word is go about, and it is a phrasal verb, and the meaning is tackle. And the next word is fight over. The word fight over is also a phrasal verb. The meaning is argue about something. And the next one is Green Belt movement. It was a movement started by Wangari Maathai, the Nobel Prize winner, and it's a movement to protect the environment. And the next word is fodder. Fodder is a noun, and the meaning is food for farm animals. And the next word is forested. Forested is an adjective, and the meaning is covered with forests. And the next word is pristine. Pristine is an adjective, and the meaning is fresh or clean. And the next word is indigenous. Indigenous is an adjective, and the meaning is native. And here, biological diversity, and it's a noun. The biological diversity, the meaning is the variety of plants and animals in a particular place. So when you talk about the animals and everything, the variety of flora and fauna found in one particular place, that is called as a biological diversity. And the next one is exotic species. Exotic species is also a noun, and the meaning is unusual plants. So these are all the different glossary about this particular lesson, and that's all about this particular unit.